Impetus, episode 106. The episode starts off with a promo package. With Vipernip returning as the president of Impetus last week, he revolutionized the business as he Viper busted Jillian Day's ass back to unemployment. Happy to be back and shaking things up, Vipernip shocked everyone later in the night, especially Greg Williams, as after the champion versus champion match with Warren Jaxon, the main event for Impulse 3 was declared. Greg Williams versus Riki Mathews for the World Impetus Championship. With the Rebel exiting with confusion and slight frustration, what do Riki, Vipernip and Greg have to say about the huge match? After an intro to the show, tonight's episode is advertised as an Impetus Revolution. With Riki Mathews taking on Steven Dreadful, CJ is excited to see his friend return to action. However, Aaron is excited for his friend's return after his ladder match with Sam Pullen. Also, Jimmy Sparrow calls out Jarvis Banks and Mark Emille. And the tag team titles are on the line between El Fuego defending against Empire. Kicking off the action, Jacinta enters the arena. As the cocky villain enters, she parades herself around with a colourful outfit, full of herself more than ever. Ready for action, CJ and Aaron discuss the issues forming between herself and Akira. Enter Jackie Sky. As Jackie enters, screenshots of recent Twitter posts from Akira are shown. The upstart female has tagged Jacinta in multiple posts surrounding her alternative thoughts on women's wrestling. Aaron Cutler points out that Jacinta has failed to reply to a single tweet. CJ complains, stating that she's a busy woman and, just like she said last week, is in the big leagues. She doesn't have time to write blogs. Match 1. Jacinta versus Jackie Sky. The typical arrogance of Jacinta costs her multiple forms of offense, causing Jackie to fight back with desire. However, Jacinta's intelligence is too hard to counter, allowing the cocky villain to gain a self-obsessed victory. Winner, Jacinta. As Jacinta looks to leave after her contest, fixing her hair and pouting to the camera, she is stopped by the music and promo of Akira. Akira walks down the ramp with focus and hopes for a face-to-face confrontation. If Jacinta won't reply using social media, then she has been left with no other choice than to have a discussion in the ring. She tells Jacinta that she doesn't want to believe it. She doesn't want to believe that we live in a world where a snobby, arrogant, self-obsessed, ignorant, selfish, manipulative, narcissistic person like Jacinta has more of a status than her. It's simply not fair. Scoffing at the debate, Jacinta tells Akira to grow the hell up, claiming that life isn't fair. Sometimes you have to do some wild things to get your name out there. Sometimes you have to do things to get attention. If that means stabbing your best friend in the back to be on top of the food chain, then so be it. If that means you have to wear some crazy outfits to keep the attention on you, then so be it. Wrestling may be a hobby for some like Akira, but to Jacinta, it's a game. A game of constant evolution and figuring out what keeps people talking. It's simply business. Akira still refuses to hear it. In hopes to prove that one needn't change their personality to get what they want, Akira challenges Jacinta to a match next week, where she will prove that you don't need to play wrestling like a game, you just need to be good at it. Once again, Jacinta chuckles at Akira's naivety. See, this is what she's talking about. Akira wants to compete next week? Next week? Oh, honey, that is so little league of you. Jacinta states that a match between the two of them needs to be executed in the greatest way possible. She reminds Akira that this is a game, and Jacinta is her final boss. She suggests that the two can settle their differences in 2 weeks' time at Impulse 3. It is there where we see who can play the game to perfection or who is simply good enough. Jacinta exits while flicking her hair and strutting her booty up the ramp, all with Akira judging her. From one female issue to the next, we then cut to a backstage parking lot scene featuring Jillian Day. As the commentators move on, they are surprised to see the recently fired Jillian Day appear on their screens. Remembering that she got fired last week, Aaron is confused with CJ elated as they both ask what the hell she is doing back on Impetus. After a commercial break, we then see replays from earlier today. The scene is in a backstage parking lot featuring Immunity. Recently arriving at the arena, all of Immunity are wearing hoods, clearly trying to be as inconspicuous as possible. However, Finch flinches to see an interviewer approach him. He, along with the team, then act smug, as if they don't care. With Bobby and Jerry almost on guard, looking out for any signs of danger, the interviewer reports to Finch that Skar and Susan are on the hunt for him and his team. Asked for his response, Finch claims that hiding from confrontation is a weakness, much like the love for one's family is also a weakness. With Finch sniggering at his confusing speech, the interviewer raises a fair question. If that's the case, what's with the hoods? Angel agrees, pathetically asking if they can take the hoods off now, as her hair is starting to flatten. With Courtney rolling her eyes in the background, Finch demands that the hoods stay on until he says so. He tells the interviewer that it is simply a little cold today, that's all. Finch then orders the interview to be over and walks into the arena with his team, quickly. The action continues. Enter Johnny Fabuloso with, of course, Terri Delighta. With their opponent Chris Vortex already in the ring and ready for action, the fabulous duo enter. Multiple images of Johnny's recent photo shoot from last week are seen. The model recently took some naked photos with the Coast to Coast title, all in hopes to promote himself as a future champion. A future world champion. Match 2. Johnny Fabuloso with Terri Delighta versus Chris Vortex. During the contest, CJ mentions Chris's recent lack of momentum, clearly indicating that he and Steven Dreadful were correct. Chris was always the weak link of the quota. As CJ constantly bashes Chris's career, Johnny bashes his face in with multiple impressive strikes and moves. Terri spends a majority of the match talking to the nearby cameraman, going on and on and on and on and on about how sexy and gorgeous his client is. Promising to make Johnny a star in the entire entertainment business, he seems to annoy everyone in the process, including Chris Vortex. In control of offense, Vortex decides to go to the outside and shut the manager up by clotheslining him. Vortex isn't done though. He searches under the ring and grabs duct tape. The vegan slaps it on the annoying manager's mouth, shutting him up once and for all. However, with Chris getting back in the ring, he gets hit with the no alibi finisher from Johnny Fabuloso, losing the contest. Winner, Johnny Fabuloso. After the match, Johnny is fabulously boasting his win, and then he sees and realizes that Terri is struggling to rip off the tape from his mouth. Caring for his manager on the outside, Johnny eventually rips it off like a band-aid. After Terry's overdramatic pain, Johnny's hand is raised yet again as his momentum seems to soar. Cutting to backstage yet again, Jillian Day is walking down the hallway. Smug as ever, Jillian is walking through the backstage area and knocks on Vipernip's office door. She waits, leaving us to wonder what exactly she has in mind. After a commercial break, we then see Jillian Day still outside Vipernip's office. Jillian seems to have been waiting for the entire break. The door soon opens with Vipernip stepping outside. Wondering why she's not allowed in, Vipernip claims that the office is being renovated and revolutionized, much like Impetus. The transformation is almost complete. Not caring, Jillian wants to talk business. Yes, Vipernip reminds himself that Jillian had some sort of business deal she'd like to offer instead of being fired. Remember when, he fired her last week and Viper busted her ass in the middle of the ring? Ha! The president is happy to hear the business idea and gives her the opportunity to sell it. Jillian claims that it isn't so much of a business deal as it is a business threat. She pulls out papers from behind her and tells Vipernip that this is a 1-year contract for Impetus, signed by the former president and founder of this company, Sam Pullen. The documents provide her employment in the company with a hefty pay rise. She may not be the president, and she may have been humiliated and Viper busted last week, but she cannot be unfairly dismissed. The contract she signed is ironclad, meaning that if Vipernip doesn't want her on his show, then she will have to sit at home and simply collect a paycheck. Vipernip isn't used to this whole legal mumbo-jumbo and asks what the hell she wants from him. She wants to be a manager. She wants to create champions just like she did to Triple J, just like she did to the Infliction. There's a problem with this, Vipernip says. Nobody likes you. Vipernip guarantees that there is not a team on the roster that wants anything to do with her, let alone benefit from having her as a manager. In fact, he reckons Jillian really wasn't that good at being a manager to begin with. Jillian is insulted and begins to yell, imploring Vipernip to let her show her assets. Holding his ears in pain, Vipernip calms the hoe down. Here's what we're going to do. It's a new start of Impetus. It's a new revolution of the business. So let's do something different. Each week, Jillian will choose a tag team. If that said team loses, then Jillian will be assigned to them as their manager, allowing her oh-so-needed and incredible talents to create the future tag team champions. Sound fair? Jillian doesn't really like the idea, but guesses she'll accept. She leaves with her bratty attitude, with Vipernip heading back into his office. The show continues as the Essentials enter for tag team action. As Aaron reminds us of their cheap yet clever win at the 2-year anniversary spectacular, the Essentials hope to continue their deceiving ways. Enter Wazzy D and Barry the Bogan. Match 3. The Essentials take on Wazzy D and Barry the Bogan. With the teams equal throughout the contest, Josh Alba runs a spot with Wazzy D. Wazzy sends Josh into the ropes. He drops down, he leapfrogs, he drops down, again and again and again and again. Wazzy repeats the drop downs until, eventually, he simply just lays on the mat, allowing Josh to eventually run out of energy, needing to catch his breath. With Josh Alba now woozy, Wazzy simply stands up and shoves him lightly, sending him collapsing in fatigue. Kicking out in fatigue, Josh then tags out. Later, with Barry getting the hot tag, he comes in on fire, defeating the opponents with his classic thong right to the head. Winners, Wazzy D and Barry the Bogan. The Essentials complain to the official about the loss, not about the drop downs or even the thong to the head, but they implore the official to look at the replay. With the replays now showing, it is revealed that Barry may have gotten a tag, but he wasn't holding the tag rope, technically entering as the illegal man. With Josh and Freddie imploring the official to do the right thing, the referee submits to the pressure and restarts the match? Match 3. Restarted. The Essentials take on Wazzy D and Barry the Bogan again. With the bell ringing to restart the match, Wazzy and Barry are confused, complaining to the referee. However, they get hit with the answer from the officials, gaining them another cheap win. Winners, the Essentials. CJ is elated for the Essentials' victory, glad to see justice. As the Essentials exit with relief, Aaron complains about their dirty work. The Essentials exit with huge grins. Remember early in the night where Vipernip's office was being renovated? Well, we get to see it this time. In a backstage segment inside Vipernip's office, we see a scene between the president himself and Riki Mathews. Our new president has made himself at home, as his new office is nothing like Sam Pullen's. Colourful, vibrant, and accessorized with Vipernip memorabilia, our superhero is loving his new job. Vipernip hears a knocking at the door and is happy to see Riki Mathews enter. The two have a quick chat about whipping Sam's ass 2 weeks ago. After their brief chat, Riki cuts to the chase. He wants to eliminate any hard feelings that Vipernip may have for him after episode 100. After all, Riki did send him into retirement. Vipernip is cool with everything, claiming that Riki had a job to do and was backed up against a wall. He would have done the same thing. He tried. The president is more than happy to move on and have a fresh start for Impetus, a new revolution. It's been a tough year for Riki. As the new president, Vipernip wants to be responsible for putting a top competitor like him back where he belongs. Riki appreciates the gesture and can't wait for Impulse 3. Neither can Vipernip, who tells the challenger to give the same fight tonight and at the pay-per-view, just like their previous encounter. The two shake hands with Riki leaving, allowing a smiling Vipernip to look on. Tonight, Riki Mathews takes on Steven Dreadful. However, up next, Jimmy Sparrow calls out Jarvis Banks and Mark Emille. Will Sparrow get a word out of his supposed friends? Promo. Enter Jimmy Sparrow. Somehow, Jimmy's issues with Dylan Dark caused Jarvis Banks and Mark Emille to get not only involved, but hurt. Ever since Mark entered Impetus a few months ago, the two have gotten along very well and formed an instant friendship. The same applies to Jarvis, reaching the point where they started tagging together, supporting each other along the way. It's with both of these friendships that he's surprised about what happened 2 weeks ago. Replay footage of 2 weeks ago is shown at the 2-year anniversary spectacular. The footage of Mark and Jarvis's attack on Jimmy Sparrow, led by Dylan Dark. Back to the ring, Jimmy wants to know what sort of emotional guilt trip or bribe Dylan Dark has placed the two of them in. If their friendship means anything to them, there is no other reason why they assaulted him. Jimmy demands his friends to come out and explain their actions. After waiting a while, Dylan Dark enters, alongside Jarvis Banks and Mark Emille. The trio enter with the rookies' masks equipped. Dylan speaks and tells Jimmy that the only way to get what he wants is by fighting for it. Someone like Jimmy acts first and then asks questions later, right? He then tells Jimmy to fight for his answer, fight for his friendships, fight right now. Demanding an impromptu contest, Dylan demands Jimmy to compete against his good friend Jarvis Banks, where if he wins, he will be told the truth. As Jarvis prepares for battle, Jimmy asks his friend if this is what he really wants. Jarvis remains still and then nods slowly. Jimmy then orders an official for the spontaneous fight. Match 4. Jimmy Sparrow versus Jarvis Banks with Mark Emille and Dylan Dark. Jimmy experiences moments in the match where he refrains from hitting his friend with multiple big strikes, hoping for his seemingly possessed friend to snap out of his trance. With Mark and Dylan simply viewing from ringside, these stoppages cause Jarvis to counter and win, hitting Jimmy with the condemnation. Winner, Jarvis Banks. After the match, Mark and Dylan join Jarvis in the ring, standing over the fallen and heartbroken Jimmy. Then, Dylan raises his hand and snaps his fingers. Controlled by their leader, Mark grabs the victim and prepares for the wheelbarrow neckbreaker move with Jarvis, but it is stopped due to chaos occurring on stage. To Mark Emille's shock, he sees his own father appear surrounded by security. Clearly in unauthorized territory, the dad forces his way to the ring to talk to his son. As Jimmy Sparrow leaves in pain, Mark speaks to the security, explaining that the old man is with him. With such a crazy scene taking place, Dylan holds Jarvis back, allowing a family meeting. Handed a microphone by his son, the father is sad to see his own flesh and blood in this position. This wasn't what he envisioned for him. Now, he admits he was never the biggest fan of wrestling while Mark was growing up. In fact, he found the whole thing silly. However, he was happy to see his son have a passion and an aspiration. He knows he didn't pay much attention to it when Mark watched it on TV, but he's pretty sure that this isn't what his son had in mind for his career. Mark always seemed to aspire to be like the Cenas and the Rocks. Mark always wanted to be idolized by the fans. Hell, it wasn't too long ago that Mark was complaining about Dylan Dark, and now he's joined him? Mark entered his first match months ago with the intention of making his dad proud. He lets Mark know that if he continues to side with Dylan and Jarvis, he'll be a disappointment. The dad then pleads his son to take off the mask and come home. After a moment of stillness, the dad reaches for his son's mask. He takes it halfway off his son's head, only for Mark to slowly grab his dad's hand. Holding it for a moment, seemingly with care, he then starts to bend his father's wrist, hurting him. Mark then headbutts his old man, sending him to the floor. With Dylan laughing, he clicks his fingers, making Mark and Jarvis hit the wheelbarrow neckbreaker finisher on the father. Dylan then picks the dad up and, right in front of an emotionless Mark, he hits the condemnation. The trio exit with a knocked out father and shocked Jimmy viewing from the side. As the show continues, the commentators are silenced with shock. With Aaron and CJ still silent, still to come, Tag Team Championship match, El Fuego vs Empire. And the main event of this evening, Riki Mathews vs Steven Dreadful. Up next, Immunity vs Skar and Susan. We then head in to a commercial break with everybody silent. The episode returns with a backstage interview in the interview area with Greg Williams. The world champion is introduced and asked what his thoughts were last week as the main event for Impulse 3 was revealed. He is also further asked what he makes of Riki's return to action later tonight. Greg tries to keep a level head, making sure that he doesn't get angry with the new management, much like the old. With Riki Mathews probably going on to surprise no one with his performance later tonight, and Vipernip's second week on the job still yet to be over, he is happy to wait until the press conference next week to reveal his opinions and thoughts on the entire matter. Being the rebel, he has multiple opinions on Vipernip and, of course, Riki Mathews. The rebel leaves brushing the dust off of his title. Enter Immunity. Bobby and Jerry enter quickly, still with their hoodies covering their faces. As their hope to remain hidden continues, they worry as they hear the music of Skar and Susan. Enter Skar and Susan. The sinister siblings storm to the ring and grab the duo before they exit. With the siblings clutching both men's throats, the hoods fly off, revealing the faces of an unknown team. Realizing they've just been pranked, Susan and Skar throw the men to the side and look around for Immunity, expecting an attack. The siblings then find their enemies, only on screen yet again. Immunity are seen in their backstage locker room. Finch speaks to the family once again. He claims that the siblings' disease of weakness is far worse than he thought. Predictability is naivety. Naivety in believing that one's repeated actions will create the same success. Skar and Susan have relied too often on their spooky freak show antics, so often that they have failed to place fear into Immunity's souls. Skar grabs the mic and speaks over Charlie, claiming that if they're not scared, then how about they come out and fight, rather than hide like cowards? Finch chuckles. Cowards? They just attacked two innocent men from out of nowhere, and yet Immunity are the cowards? Finch vows to destroy Skar's weakness on Immunity's time. He wants to prove that Immunity are the cure to Skar's disease and will do so on the biggest stage possible, Impulse 3. Bobby and Jerry will vanquish the illness within Skar and will show just how internally weak he has become. Skar accepts Finch's challenge, but tells him that the pay-per-view is in 2 weeks, which means Immunity have got 14 days to run and hide. With Finch about to speak, Courtney steps in front of him. She claims that she's not running anywhere. The siblings don't have to wait to get their hands on Immunity, as she challenges Susan to a hardcore match next week. With Immunity suddenly furious with the suggestion, Skar sniggers and accepts. With Immunity quietly arguing, the siblings then grab the fallen men in the ring and hit them with stereo resurrections, making all of Immunity focus on the monsters with fear. With the chaotic scene ending, a promo package for episode 108 is seen. Impulse 3 is advertised in what is sure to be a revolutionary event. The action continues. Enter Empire. Ready for their tag team title match, will Empire be entering their Coast to Coast title match at Impulse 3 as the new tag team champions? As Empire get in the ring, Impulse 3 is advertised yet again. The Coast to Coast title triple threat match is advertised. Corey versus Blake versus Warren Jaxon. As Empire wait for their opponents, El Fuego enter, but for a promo. Licio and Cinxia enter as normal and are ready for the match to begin. However, as the referee looks to call for the bell, Licio decides to stop them. Shocking everyone, even his partner, Licio claims that there is no need for the referee to ring the bell, as he has another person for the job. With Cinxia and Empire confused, Licio welcomes back the return of the Firewall. Only this time, it won't be deciding who will face them for the gold. The Firewall will select a completely random member of the roster, deciding who the special guest referee for this match will be. With Empire outraged, the Firewall spins its virtual wheel. Slowing down near Warren Jaxon, it moves past him, revealing Aaron Cutler? With the commentator confused, Licio realizes that his plan it's failed. Awkwardly making things up as he goes, he claims that this particular Firewall was actually a practice run. Yes, a practice run. Failing his plan, Licio tries again. The virtual wheel spins again to finally land on Warren Jaxon, which is what Licio wanted the whole time. With Empire pissed off, they witness their enemy enter. Enter Warren Jaxon. Laughing at the terrible organization, Jaxon is happy to appear in a referee shirt. Match 5. Tag Team Championship match with the special guest referee, Warren Jaxon. El Fuego versus Empire. With Empire constantly playing dirty, Warren tries his best to stay unbiased, going face to face with his future opponents. As tension builds, El Fuego attempt their fireball finisher, only for it to be countered. Empire chucks Cinxia out of the ring and throw him into the steel steps, taking him out of the game. With Cinxia out, Empire attack the remaining luchador with a 2-on-1 beatdown, not caring about the rules that Warren is trying to demand. With Warren attempting to force the illegal man, Corey, back outside the ring, he gets shoved to the floor by his rival. As Empire set Licio up for the Thunder from Down Under, Warren decides to react and beat the hell out of Corey. With Blake countered by Licio, Cinxia storms back in the ring and takes himself and Blake out of it. With Cinxia busy on the outside beating the hell out of the Empire member, Warren helps Licio hit the fireball on Blake. Licio covers, allowing Warren to count the pin. Winners, El Fuego. After the match, El Fuego and Jaxon stand tall over Empire. Warren raises his title, rubbing his success in his enemies' faces. Still to come, the main event match between Riki Mathews and Steven Dreadful. Up next, Daria is in action. Daria enters after the commercial break with a bright smile and even brighter piece of gold. The champion is happy to be competing. Enter Kelly Sales. As Kelly enters, CJ speaks of the lack of focus Daria seems to have had concerning Jade Williams. Match 5. Daria versus Kelly Sales. Winning with the Harlem Hangover, Daria puts on a respectful match against her opponent. Winner, Daria. As the champion celebrates with her gold, CJ takes off his headset at the announce table, unable to take any more of this crap. Surprising his colleague with an unscheduled part of the show, CJ speaks on the microphone, stopping Daria's victory. He claims that Aaron Cutler may be the one chosen to do these in-ring interviews, but he has a couple of questions he'd personally like to ask Daria. The champion remains in the ring, confused and a little insulted. CJ claims that it seems as though Daria has been enjoying her second reign with the Women's Championship. Everything seems to be all hunky-dory, but it seems as though Daria has been completely oblivious to the fact that she has a bulldozer named Jade Williams breathing down her neck. CJ simply asks why she isn't taking such a competitor seriously. Not that Daria needs to answer someone like CJ, but she makes it really clear that since regaining her title, she's been on cloud nine. After defeating Adrenaline, defending her title and having kick-ass matches with the likes of Kelly Sales, Daria has been proud to see her women's division step up. However, when it comes to Jade, she's seen how dominating she can and has been. In fact, she's felt it. She tells CJ that she isn't oblivious to anything, but she has been ignoring Jade. She knows how this business works. When you retaliate to the bait someone gives you, they become your business. Daria won't fall for the bait. If Jade wants to compete for the women's title, then she's going to have to woman the F up and come challenge her for it. Until then, Jade can plant her through all the tables she likes, but it won't change the fact that she is and will always be the women's champion. Daria exits with CJ irritated. With Daria's music playing, the commentator demands it to stop. CJ talks to the women's champion and claims that he didn't just want to ask a question, as he wants to deliver a statement. It looks as though Daria may have to woman the F up herself, as he has just been informed that Daria will face Jade Williams at Impulse 3, with the women's title on the line. Daria shakes her head at CJ's arrogance, now having to prepare for the pay-per-view. Another promo package for Impulse 3 is seen. Episode 108, in 2 weeks' time, the biggest pay-per-view and the revolutionary pay-per-view called Impulse 3 takes place. After the promo package, the revolutionary Impulse 3 pay-per-view match card is shown. The Women's Championship is on the line as Jade Williams tries to take the title away from Daria. Also, a triple threat match will take place in order to determine the coast-to-coast champion. The problem for Warren Jaxon is that it's against Corey and Blake, the Empire. And Akira takes on Jacinta in the battle of aesthetics and cosmetics. Also, Immunity take on Skar and Susan. Will Charlie Finch lead his team into taking away the weakness of Skar? And our main event matchup for Impulse 3, the World Impetus Championship, is on the line as Riki Mathews hopes to enter as challenger and exit as champion, but he must beat Greg Williams in order to do it first. Speaking of Riki Mathews in a main event, his main event match tonight is about to take place. Enter Steven Dreadful. As the cowboy enters, CJ stands on the announce desk and applauds with arrogance. Enter Riki Mathews. Riki enters, happy to be back and see Impetus in a new light. Aaron welcomes his friend back to Impetus after defeating Sam Pullen in their ladder match, with CJ telling his colleague to stop kissing his ass. Main event, Match 6, Riki Mathews versus Steven Dreadful. The two remember their history as they have a great battle. With Riki locking in the hyperlock on his former rival, he doesn't seem to have it cemented, as Steven prevents his arm from being overextended. Still in huge pain, Steven battles through it, trying to reach the ropes. Millimeters away, the ropes are eventually touched by Steven, but not grabbed. Realizing this, Riki decides to pull Steven back in the ring and tap him out to an alternative submission, the Triangle Choke. Winner, Riki Mathews. After the match, CJ is upset with Steven's loss. Riki celebrates and climbs the turnbuckle to see what Greg Williams saw last week. The screen promotes his match with Greg Williams at Impulse 3. Riki sends the folks home, taunting a title around his waist.